Hi, I'm Greg Euland with Reynolds & Reynolds, and this is Connected. Today, I'm really excited for the conversation with Kayla Sheridan, the marketing director at TommyCar Auto Group. Kayla was actually a finalist at our Automotive Amplifiers Contest this year, and I couldn't be more excited to sit down and chat with her. Kayla, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yep. So, Kayla, we were just chatting before we started recording. You said that you've been with TommyCar for 12 years.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good run. Tell me a little bit. What's your genesis story, right? How'd you get into auto retail?
Yeah, so I was previously an account executive for completely different field. And then when I had saw that there was an opening, kind of piqued my interest. I knew nothing about the automotive world. It was brand new to me, and I started here really as like a marketing intern / coordinator. So, 12 years ago, I came in really not knowing anything, and I still very closely work with Carla, who's the owner. So we talk every day. I work very closely with her and her brother, Tommy. But I originally came in as like a marketing intern / coordinator, and then through the years kind of worked my way up to be public relations manager. And then I did all the media buying for the group. And then now obviously being the marketing director for the group.
That's great. That's great.
And it's been a wild ride.
So one of the things you mentioned there that I'd love to dig into a little bit or double click on maybe is you mentioned, you talk with Carla, the owner, every day. Right.
Yeah.
And I think when you think about ownership in a dealership and at a very minimum, the general manager, but depending on the size and scope of the dealership, if you can talk with the owner, the CEO, whatever the structure is, certainly from a marketing perspective, I think that that's extremely important, right? You can make sure that you're in alignment, you have clear direction, you understand what's happening in the business so that you can do what's needed from a marketing perspective. But hearing you say that, I'd love to hear a little bit more about, what maybe that conversation looks like, why you think it's important, what about it makes your job easier and makes the dealership perform better.
Yeah. So both the owners, Carla and Tommy, they're in the dealership 6 days a week. They're always working. They're either sitting at the sales desk with all the managers. You can always have a meeting with them. They are always in the dealership. I actually think Carla might be downstairs working at the sales desk right now. But yeah, we work very closely together. We want to I want to make sure that our marketing and the direction we're going to, and of course, makes sense with the general managers that we have, but with the vision that Carla and Tommy want as well. And each month we go over our forecasting, our goals from, last month, our sales, where could we improve? Where do we want to switch our money to? What worked the best, looking at ROI. Things are always evolving at the car dealership. So, talking every day, maybe making tweaks here and there. If I need to ask a question, if, whatever it may be. But yeah, we talk multiple times a day.
Has it always been like that? Or have you developed that relationship over time? Like, how has that relationship evolved over the 12 years?
Yeah, I think it's always been like that. They've always honestly been in the dealership 6 days a week. But it's always been like that, to be honest. I think now, obviously, we're in a place where we have general managers. I think when I first started, we really just had GSMs. So now we do have the general managers, but we have marketing meetings once a month with everybody, with the owners, with the managers, to go over a full marketing report of how their ROI was, their budget, what are they spending on cost per sold, cost per lead, and then kind of looking at where we want to go for the month or the upcoming months.
That's great. So you mentioned, sorry, we're going to go all over the place because I'll just dig into everything that you say. But so you said, ROI and cost per sold, cost per lead, those are obviously great metrics to look at.
Yeah.
Where does that conversation go though, right? So let's say, you're at 700 a car or whatever the number is. You can share.
Hopefully
if you want
not
to,
that much.
Right. Like wherever you want to be.
Yeah.
But so here's the number. This is where you're at. So we spent X dollars this month. Does it then turn into a strategy conversation? Is it more like, okay, so then what is what does that flow look like?
So, well, we just recently had our marketing meeting. So,
Yeah.
even, looking at last month. So we kind of go through their overall spend, the cost per sold, cost per lead, looking at, all of our third parties, how many leads they got, their appointment set, their appointment show, then their show to sold. And of course, we're also looking at Google Analytics to look at our CRM plus Google Analytics to see what's working and what's not working. So after looking at all of that, we'll kind of make decisions of if we need to cut back on budget, if we want to increase our budget, and then we also wait for the manufacturer incentives to come out to see what is going to be an amazing deal for our customers. So it's kind of looking at all of that to then move into what our strategy is.
Okay. So you mentioned looking at leads, sounds like pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with attribution? Do you do last click attribution, basically like wherever the lead kind of came from? So cars.com, I don't know if you're even putting stuff on cars.com, but
Yep.
right, that's where we see the lead come into the CRM from. That's who we attribute that lead to, even if they, spent a bunch of time somewhere else or, they were communicating with us on Facebook or something like that. I mean,
we really looking for at least the CRM, like where did the lead come in from? And then obviously looking at, GA4, kind of looking at the referral traffic with that and how many sessions and then how many key events.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's still in today's world, I don't think a perfect way to do it. So I'm always interested in how
there really isn't. I mean, it's, it's hard because we might not get any leads from their website, the third party website, but then looking at GA4, you can see the referral traffic is so high. So you kind of have to make a decision of, are we staying with them, based on leads, the referral traffic, or are they both not working? Then we're going to cut them.
Yeah. Well, I always find it interesting. Well, actually, before I go there, let me ask you this. When you're looking at a marketing strategy, obviously you have third party sites, you have a lot of places that you can spend money. What percentage would you say of your dollars each month go to proactive advertising versus reactive advertising? And really, when I say reactive advertising, I'm talking mostly Google, AdWords, that kind of stuff. Whereas proactive would be Facebook ads, putting an offer in front of somebody, or putting inventory on a third-party listing site, something like that. What percentage? How do you allocate?
I would say so. We still do traditional advertising here. We do believe in radio and TV for branding purposes, and it works well in our market. So we still do a percentage of traditional as well. Most of it is to the digital side, being third party and paid search and all of that goes with that, unpaid social. So 20%, maybe a little bit more, goes to traditional, and the rest goes to, paid social and paid search.
Okay. And then what about how do third-party marketplace sites or listing sites, how do those factor in? Like
those are
or an Auto Trader?
Yeah, those are the lead providers. So we're kind of half and half. We still believe in the third party lead providers, but obviously we do a lot with paid search, the Google VLAs and all of that. So it's kind of split right now for that.
Okay.
For us, at least.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Tell me about traditional a little bit more. So I've always been, and I sold digital advertising for a long time. So, you get a little biased, but I've actually always been a fan of radio. I don't know why, just like to me, that medium, you have a captive audience in a lot of cases. People listen to the radio in the car, right? When they're commuting or whatever. A lot of people still listen to the radio at their desk, but certainly in their vehicle when they're going to work, coming home, a lot of people listen to the radio. So I've always felt that is still a good way to get your message out. But tell me about what your experience is, and I'd love to hear what your TV strategy is, because there's a lot of different strategies when it comes to video, especially.
Right.
Love to hear what that's like for you guys.
Yeah. So right now, Carla is like the face and the voice of the company. So she does all the recordings for radio and the TV ads. So, this month we didn't record anything. It's not typical that we go dark, in a particular month, but this month we did. But we might record every month of a new offer. But yeah, I mean, radio works really well for us too. So we see a spike in the VDPs when we start actually like our radio ad when it actually started. So looking at it from last month, you can see a spike on the day that it actually started running for our VDPs. And then for TV right now, I mean, I think there's so many different avenues you can go to, like connected TV. You have your pre-roll, you have all of that. Right now, we have run like on our local news station, news, and then sports, typically. But we've done the pre-roll, we've done, connected TV and all of that. So, but typically right now, and last month we ran in the news section.
Okay. Is it mostly offer based? Is it,
it's always
you're promoting a
offer-based.
deal. So yeah.
It's
okay.
all, yep.
All right.
Yeah, it's always an offer based. Usually, it's usually like a lease offer.
Okay. Yeah, that tracks well. You mentioned seeing a spike in VDPs from radio ads, and I love that mindset, because the one example that's always stuck with me, and this is going back, I mean, it's been probably 10 years ago that I heard this and I saw the data on this, but it was actually somebody from Facebook was talking to us about, do Facebook ads work? Right. And this started to shape in my mind this idea of proactive and reactive advertising. And there was this dealership that decided, okay, we believe you. We're going to spend a bunch of money on Facebook ads this month. Yeah. And they didn't get any leads from Facebook. And they were like, this doesn't work. There's no way. Yeah. But when you dig into it and you actually look at it, they actually saw a massive increase in leads from paid search. Right? Yeah. Because somebody's on Facebook, they see the ad. So that's the proactive piece. Yeah. But they don't necessarily click through the ad because they don't want to be interrupted with what they're doing. Right. But instead they go to Safari or whatever browser, they search for the dealership. Now the paid ad pops up in Google. Yeah. And all of a sudden you have this traffic and you have these leads. So the way that you described it, I love that you're looking at that from, certainly a correlation perspective, but the reality is it's causation, right? I mean, your radio ad in this case is driving other types of activity.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And even with like you bringing up paid social too, that is one of our top sources right now, like our top channels for each store. It's either in the first or second place right now for that. So I mean, it is it's changed obviously from even 12 years ago when I started. So
no, that's great. Yeah. All right, so we really dove right in. Sorry, I knew that was going to happen as soon as we started talking a little bit. We were going to go all over the place. Before we get too far down the rabbit hole, I do want to circle back around. I want to make sure to talk about real quick to the walk around contest that you do. Yeah. So this is something that you talked about at Amplify. Yeah. And I really liked it. I thought it was a great idea. I mean, there are a lot of stores that do this type of thing, but the way you guys execute it and how you described it, I just really liked it. So maybe you could share what you do, kind of how frequently, who's involved, all that type of stuff. Yeah.
So, we introduced the TommyCar walk around to really elevate the sales team's like abilities in presenting vehicles, but also how do you build those strong customer connections, but also how do you highlight like our why buy message for our dealership. So, we wanted to create a solution that would really help our team consistently communicate the value of us and like why somebody should buy from us, obviously versus our competitor, but kind of make it, fun and a team, bonding experience at the same time. So, we came up with the TommyCar walk around contest. It's held on the first Monday of each quarter. So the last one we recently did was on, it's either the first or the second, however the month falls, but we had one in October. So we have 5 dealerships. Hyundai and Genesis are together. So it's those same salespeople. But we've changed it a few different ways. In October, we selected 2 salespeople. We gave the managers an option, like pick your top 2 salespeople that could really win for your store and show us the best walk around. And then one person from each store selected at random the night of. But we've also done it where we don't pick anybody ahead of time, and then we have maybe 4 people at random go from each store. We kind of change it up a little bit based on feedback that we get from the last quarter's competition. So it kind of varies, but it's always usually at random that people get selected because, keep them on their toes.
Sure.
But we always give the scenario ahead of time to the managers and the salespeople so they can practice. They know the car that they're going to be doing the walk around on. And we try to keep it at like 5 minutes because we would be here all night if we used all of our salespeople. And we didn't keep it to 5 minutes. So that's why we give the scenario ahead of time. So then they can kind of just hit on the key points and, why buy from us at the same time.
Yeah. Is there any heckling?
Yeah. I mean, we keep it fun. We always try to pick a customer that is like one of our fun employees that can kind of go back and forth and, but we really try to be super supportive. We make sure we're cheering on, saying good job, and some people, it's mostly the newer salespeople, the sales consultants that are very nervous when they get picked. But, no one's judging. It's really to just help them and train them at the same time to be the best they can. So, we have the people that are nervous, but we try to, and Carla's there every single time. So if someone's very nervous that got picked, she'll pull them aside, really, talk, coach them and try to make them feel more comfortable before they go.
Yeah. So when you do it, you have 5 different brands, right?
Mm-hmm. So each store, so let's just say in October, I believe we did maybe a new electric car. So everybody, make sure it's clean and detailed. And then we put it in one of our, we put it at the Volkswagen dealership in the service drive. All 5 cars are there. And then when it's their turn, they're doing their car specific to the store they work at.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was wondering, that's what I was curious about, if you had one from each brand or if you were doing a used car, so it was, different for everybody.
No, we always do it one from each store. We, bring it over ahead of time, and when service is closed, we pull the cars in, and then each salesperson goes to the car that, the brand that they work for.
Yeah, and how long have you been doing it for? How long have you been doing this?
Oh, geez, we've been doing it for quite a while, and who doesn't like a little competition? So first place is 500 and then you win 250 or 100. So we've been doing it for a couple years now.
Yeah. Has it become this thing that people look forward to? So, I assume when you started, there was probably, okay, yeah, we'll do this. And then the second time it's like, all right, well, yeah, that was kind of fun. But after you get going, have you seen that momentum where now salespeople even are excited about it and people are looking forward to it?
I would say in the beginning, it was kind of, oh man, we have to go to this after hours and, everyone's tired. But now we have a really good friendly competition going between all the stores. And everybody wants to win. They want their store to win. The managers really invest a lot of time in the walk around and training. So who's the best? So now I think everyone enjoys going. And now that we've really have fine-tuned it where it's not, because before we used to do every salesperson. So we were there for hours. So we really fine-tuned it to, okay, we do 2 salespeople, maybe 3, sometimes 4. We keep it to 5 minutes. We have a judging sheet. We keep it to 1 page. I mean, it's, we try to move it along. And, there's pizza and there's, soda and drinks and stuff. So, and then you win the money if you're the best.
Right. No, that's great. Yeah, whenever you have an idea for an activity, right, whatever it is, and if it's something you're going to do recurring, it seems like you need somebody really pushing it at the beginning. And then the second time you do it, it's a little less difficult, right? And then the third time, maybe that ball starts rolling on its own a little bit. And then by the time you've done it enough, you're just going downhill with it. So I was kind of curious if that's where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, and we rely on the managers too to make sure that they're like hyping up their team and practicing and going over the scenario with the, sales consultant. And then Carla, she's always around, so she's always hyping it up before the competition. Too, because she's always there. So, but she's actually never really the judge. We always pick, it depends. Sometimes it might be, a finance manager. We have a couple of judges, might be 2 to 3 judges, but it's never Carla, because she, doesn't want to be biased to a store or anything like that. So she's never really the judge.
That's a good idea, right? And you have people there that can handle it, so you don't have to do it. That's great.
Yeah.
No, I love just hearing how you've been able to make it happen and how you guys are focused on it and how it's becoming an event that's part of the culture of the store. I think that there's a lot that goes into that. One of the things that you mentioned, I think, if I remember right, at Amplify was the impact it's had on kind of team bonding. And it seems like if you can embed it into your culture, these types of things really do make for a good bonding experience and honestly probably impact loyalty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that obviously the skill enhancement, having the salespeople, because sometimes it might be a veteran salesperson that gets picked to go. So, the newer sales consultants get to watch these veteran sales consultants that might just have it down, or sometimes the veteran salespeople need a little practice too. So It's actually good for everyone to kind of see what their take on a walk around is. I mean, we all have the same scenario, the same meet and greet, but it's really, where do you go from that? I think it's fun as for team bonding. We're all together, all of our stores, all of our sales consultants, you have all the managers there and you have the owners there. So to all be together like that is, it's a bonding experience. I think it's also great to just, like I said, see how else are people doing a meet and greet with a customer? Maybe someone's more serious, maybe someone's a little fun with it. What's your takeaway on that, watching other people? I think it's also, we have so many why buy messages, like why buy or why service from TommyCar. There's so many of them, they can kind of just sometimes get lost. So I think it's a great reminder to really make sure that everybody understands, like, why should a customer buy from us or service from us? And then also like the competition aspect of it with the $500, the $250, or the $100.
Yeah. No, it's great. That's great. Kayla, while I have you too, one other thing that I wanted to make sure to touch on and just get your opinion on. So you have 5 stores that you're responsible for, right? And you guys have a collision center too.
We have a collision and a towing truck as well. Yes.
Okay. So
towing company.
I'm curious how you then manage those brands, right? I think about it. You have 5 OEMs, so that's 5 brands, right?
Yeah.
You have 5 locations. And they're all fairly close geographically.
Yeah, within, walking distance to each other. 2 are on the same campus. 1 is right down the road. So very, very close.
Yeah, so you have that going for you where you don't have different towns necessarily to market to.
Not really.
So how do you balance kind of 5 different OEMs, 5 different stores that do have different audiences, right? A Genesis buyer is different than a Nissan buyer.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So how do you balance that messaging? And then also you have the TommyCar brand message too. So you kind of have, in a lot of ways, I would say, you could argue 10, 12, 13 different sort of audiences, right? And messages you have to deliver. So how do you balance that? Because that's a tough thing to do. And, it's kind of on your shoulders to make sure it's not confusing and it's hitting the mark.
Yeah. I think that it's always, it's hard. But each store, looking at I try to make sure, obviously I have time, if it's, today I focused on something for the Volkswagen manager. So I dedicated, 2 hours because he needed something done to make sure it got done for him. Every day looking at, each store's ROI or what they need help with, or making sure, I mean, all the managers have my cell phone. I'm always in the dealership. I don't work from home. I'm physically at a dealership. So somebody can always find me. But I do think, making sure that you understand each brand's demographic and their customers, and making sure the marketing is in the right spots for each brand. And I think that making sure that you work very closely with the managers, to see what's working, what's not working. I'm sitting in an office, so a lot of the time I'm behind my computer, focusing on what I'm working on at that day. So I'm not in the showroom with the customers, with the managers. So making sure that they communicate with me of what's going on in the showroom.
Right. So when you think about that and you're getting that communication, and everybody's got different needs, right, and different customers, you have a lot coming at you. How do you ensure that the message for the Volkswagen store is hitting it appropriate, and it's probably different than the Genesis store, and then you also have this overarching TommyCar brand that you're responsible for. Do you have any guidance? Because there's a lot of people that are going to be in that situation, right? There's a lot of groups out there that are 5 stores, 10 stores, whatever it might be, or bigger. But how do you balance all of those kind of messages to make sure that they're hitting the audience and they're not getting confusing?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do think on radio and TV, they might hear Carla's voice, Elise Deal, and they might not know what goes with each brand, because sometimes we might have a similar theme. Like December, we did more holiday theme. So do I think that sometimes on radio and TV, somebody might hear something or hear Carla because she's so well known in the community here, that they might not say, oh, I think that's for the Nissan store, but it really was for Genesis. Sometimes they might call us, it just depends on that. So, but I also think really looking at, who you're hitting for an audience on your digital platforms, what works, what doesn't. We have a couple lead providers that work really well for 3 of our stores, and it doesn't for another one, and we just canceled it. You just don't see the ROI. So you really have to look at the data and make data decisions. You can't just do it on a whim. You really have to dive into every single lead source that you're using. Even if it's, paid social, paid search, what's working, what's not. Some of the stuff that works for Volkswagen does not work, obviously, for a Genesis or even Volvo.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. No, that's good. Another thing I was curious about for you, and maybe this has shifted over the years that you've been there too, how much marketing execution, right? So thinking about digital advertising or social or things like that, how much digital execution are you doing in-house versus are you working with a vendor on, like a service provider?
So we write all of, I'll start the base of a radio and TV script. I'll write it, and then me and Carla kind of sit together, go back and forth on it, maybe make a change, depending on what she thinks as well, because she's the one reading it and on the TV commercial. So we do that in-house. We always have marketing interns here, so we do a lot. They do a lot making our graphics, and then we also work with a digital company to do our paid search and our paid social. And then obviously we have our third-party lead providers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You said marketing interns.
So I still do all the media buying myself, like in all the scripts like that. But then when it comes to paid search and paid social, we use an outside company.
Okay.
But always, like I'm the point of contact for them. Obviously, we want the managers involved. We want them on all the strategy calls, but we found it too confusing when there's multiple people for that one vendor. So everything still has to funnel through me.
Yeah, it gets to, right? They have the opportunity to work with you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. You mentioned marketing interns. I love this idea. Are these college students, high school students, just folks that are kind of part-time? Like when you say marketing intern, how do you define that?
So it's always usually somebody in school. It's a paid internship plus we fill out the paperwork for them to get the credits too from their school. So we just had, and we do the summer internships too. So we had two people over the summer. One continued through the whole fall semester. She just recently her internship ended, and she's going to look for something else because and focus on her studies because it's her last semester of college. But we have two more starting when they get back to school when this semester starts, like the end of January. So it's always usually college students, paid internship, and they get the credits.
That's
and
great.
we have in our area, it's like 5 colleges. So, I mean, we have a lot of students and that do the internship program with us.
Yeah, that's great. Have you had any luck bringing any of them back full time after they graduate?
Yeah, we have. We had somebody who was with us. She started as an intern. She stayed with us 2 to 3 years. She decided to pursue something completely different. But we still chat every day. I keep in touch with all of them, too. I feel like you work closely with them, and if they have questions, if they ever need me, they know where to find me.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
No, it's great to have, that influx of ideas and people, and obviously you're helping them, they're helping you. And
Yeah.
I do think that one of the most maybe unspoken or uncommon things about internships is when you can keep them on, whether it's part-time, right? You just mentioned somebody who was on for the summer and they stayed on for the next semester. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Or getting them back full-time too as a full-time associate. So love that you guys do that.
Yeah, it's really great because I feel like when I started 12 years ago, obviously I'm not the same person I was probably then, and being more confident now. So, working with the interns, I love it because I feel like I was that person 12 years ago, maybe a little shy, not wanting to meet with all the managers. And, we have a lot of managers. You have, the sales department, parts and service. So, I love working with the interns.
That's great. That's great.
And we always need the help.
Yeah. And one other thing that I didn't mention earlier, but you went to UConn, correct?
I did.
Okay, so shifting gears, what is going on with the basketball team right now?
I don't know, and I hate to say this. And I went to all the sports games and everything. I don't follow it anymore.
Oh, all right. This week?
Yeah, I don't follow the I'm not big into sports for basketball, and I hate to say it because I loved UConn and it was amazing. But I have two kids and they ride dirt bikes, so I'm fully invested in more motocross than I am into sports.
Hey, you know what? When your kids are into something, you're into it, and that's the way to do it. So that's all right.
So I actually don't watch the UConn basketball team or any of their sports, which I hate to say because it was amazing and I had the best time there.
Yeah. Well, the women's team looks good still, so got that going. But
yeah.
Well, Kayla, I've really enjoyed chatting. What haven't we talked about that we should? What haven't I asked you that you want to chat about?
I don't know. I think we kind of covered it. I mean, if you have any more, questions, I feel like I'm an open book here at TommyCar. So, and I've been here for so long, but yeah, if you have any other questions for me.
No, it's been a fun conversation. We kind of dove right in. So, it's like just jumped off into the deep end. And
I love it. I feel like that's how marketing is. And I hate to say it, sometimes it's just so chaotic, and all over the place. And, but that's what keeps it fun here. I feel like every day is so different for me. I'm never bored, but 2, every day is so different. Like what I did yesterday or what I was looking at, or even last week, it's just so different for me. And every day is something new.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, Kayla, I really do appreciate you hopping on and chatting. It was great to sit down. We'll have to talk again soon. Are you by chance heading out to NADA here in a couple of weeks?
I'm not. No, I'm not going to NADA this year. Wish I was, but next year I'll hopefully be there.
Sounds good. All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Take care, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yeah, talk soon. Thank you.
What a fun conversation with Kayla Sheridan from TommyCar Auto Group. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did and could pull a few nuggets out of that one to maybe apply, whether it's in the walk-around that they do, the walk-around contest they do, or just some general marketing strategies. Again, thanks to Kayla for joining me. Before we hop off, don't forget you can watch or listen to all episodes of Connected on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. And make sure to hit subscribe so you're notified every other week when new episodes are released. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.